Welcome back to the channel, guys. The market is a mess, and we're going to talk about it.
A disaster.
But before we do, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Alright, welcome back to the channel, guys. The market has been going crazy. Up and down, up and down.
Mostly down.
Mostly down, yeah. But I think a lot of people are trying to figure out what's going to happen next. Are we going to keep going down? What do you think?
Well, if we could answer that question definitively, then, you could just do margin on everything. But we can't exactly know that answer definitively.
Okay, well, let's take a look at some things that might cause the market to continue going down. So I'm thinking housing could be the next thing to drop.
Right, so there's some things that may cause housing prices to fall, right? So first is the primary reason I think would be interest rates. So possibly that interest rates will start pushing mortgage rates even higher and basically making houses even less affordable, as if they weren't already, right? But if people aren't able to buy houses, then there should be more inventory sitting around for longer. And if that happens, then people have to reduce prices if they have selling pressure. So
Yeah.
there is some selling pressure out there, because some of these houses may be purchased with loans that are backed on margin or something like that. So if if there are investors out there who are feeling the pinch, they may need to put their properties on sale. I don't know what percentage of properties out there are like that, but there's probably some number. And also, if people don't see any wage increases, which is definitely not happening right now, and also if people don't have um, enough money for day to day stuff, then they may not be able to buy a house at the current prices, basically forcing these prices down. So those are reasons why I could see some real estate prices going down. If you watch Meet Kevin, actually, he goes into this a lot, and he's actually out of like 20 some properties, I think, based on what I've seen. And that was in
So
January till now.
so he thinks the housing market is too hot.
I think so. I think he thought that it was too hot back in January. So he thought that if the Fed started raising interest rates, then he'll be able to buy back in low.
How long do you think this market dip is going to continue to go on, though?
I don't think you could know, but typically recessions last what, like 6 to 12 months or so, and the longest one was 18 months, I think. So if we consider the recession to be starting in, say, January, because we haven't actually declared a recession yet. But if we have 2 quarters of declining growth, then we can call it a recession. And that means it would be, what, 6 months old? So then there's probably, what, 4 to 6 more months to go.
Right. The other problem is the rising cost of daily goods.
Yeah, so you can kind of see that reflected in what happened to Target. So if you kind of pull up Target's chart and look at it, and you can look at it, say, 6 months. So you'll see like they've been hovering around, say, 220, 200 to 220 ish, going as high as 250. And then all of a sudden, their first quarter numbers came out, and people were spending less. They were spending less on, I think, clothing, but they were spending more on food items. So that means people are really pulling back on random items that they may not need right in the moment. That's a result of many different factors. First, you have Ukraine and Russia. We know that they produce a lot of grain. Ukraine is like 12% of the world's wheat supply. And then following that, just to make things a little bit worse, India got hit by an extra hot heat wave that caused their grain supply to be impacted by a lower harvest. So India put on an export control on the grain, and at the same time, Indonesia banned the export of cooking oil. All at the same time, all of these things came out to pressure food prices to go higher. So it's bad.
So, do you think holding cash is a good idea right now?
Well, your cash is obviously worth less now, right?
Right.
Let's say 6 months ago, I could go to the grocery store and get a gallon of milk for a buck 70. Now you go to the grocery store and it'll be 280. Holding cash, I don't know. You have to have some sort of emergency fund. You can't be without an emergency fund because if something stupid bad happens, you need to be able to pay in cash. You can't just be like, here's 5 shares of Target.
Right.
You can't do that. And especially if prices or stock prices may go down, then your emergency fund gets smaller if you put all of your money in stock. But holding a ton of cash right now may not be such a good idea because if you hold lots of cash waiting for the dip, you're gonna miss the dip because you never know. It only takes a few days for the market to decide that things are great and it's just gonna turn around. Um, so I don't know that you should just be holding cash and waiting for something to happen. I think dollar cost averaging into this is a good idea. I've been constantly buying SpyX. I've been buying FTech, FTEC. So I feel like those are good plays because it's hard for us who have full time jobs to sit down and just stare at all these income statements to try to figure out what's good. And then to wait for it to go up and then sell at the right time. That's my feeling, right? Um, I'm sure there are some people who are highly motivated who could do that.
Okay, well, I don't mind if it keeps going down. I just hope the housing market goes down because it's out of control.
Well, because you're trying to buy a house.
I am, but I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona, and people are selling garbage dumps for premium prices.
Yeah,
It's
I looked at
crazy.
some of them. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens. I think within the next 12 months, we'll see. Because if the Fed raises another 0.5% and then another 50 basis points the month after that, we're up a whole percentage point in 2 months. And that means mortgages will adjust accordingly. And that will cause people to not be able to afford anything at those prices, especially if they're not getting those wage increases to match with current inflation.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to conclude this, right? There's actually good signs for a rebound, right? People are traveling in record numbers.
That's true.
People who don't have cash don't do that. So people are still ready and willing to spend money. And even with plane ticket prices like that, they're still like, let me go. I'm going on vacation. Um, so nothing's really stopped anyone from going places. Um, all the airlines are basically sold out, and they're not lowering the price for anything.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for recovery. The problem is when.
When? Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, look, you're a little bit too focused on the when, right? I think you're focused on the when because you really wanted that house. You want that house. You want that crash to crash as hard as it possibly can, as soon as it
Yeah,
possibly can, right?
you just have to fast forward through the bottom. We just get there.
Get to the because see, real estate is easier to grab onto the bottom because there'd be a lot of houses around. It's a big ticket purchase. It's not like, oh, I can go buy fractions of a house. Like I can buy fractions of a share of Google.
Right.
So I mean, although you could buy fractions of a house by like investing in REITs, like O Realty or FRT or something like that. Okay, that's an aside. But if there's a crash like that, the housing market will stay down for some time as people react to it, as people start storing up enough capital to buy a house again. But you can't predict when it's going to happen. You can kind of guess that it's going to happen just because of the interest rate problem, as well as the economic slowdown and plus the inflation being so high. You can guess that it's going to happen, but you can't really know exactly when. especially because we don't really have the experience. I think maybe a person who has been a real estate investor for 30 years, they might be like, oh, okay, I can feel that we're going to be entering a period of time where we can make some nice purchases. So the answer is you can't know when.
Okay. The market is a complete mess. If you guys have anything to add, comment down below. Subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys in the next one.
And let us know when you think it's going to hit the bottom.